Alright, it has been a little bit since the last one, the last deck list. Believe it was... Who did I do? Was it Shirahoshi? I want to say it was Shirahoshi. I planned on doing both Purple Katakuri and Yellow Kid. But Yellow Kid's viability really tanked the moment 13 came out. You know, tempo decks really aren't too hot. Aggro is kind of the way to go if you want to blitz down Emu or stand a chance against Ace. So in this video, instead of doing a stall deck like Kid or a tempo deck like Katakuri, we are going to be doing the Queen of Aggro herself, Belo. She is red-yellow. She's from OP05. You should know what she does by now, given how long she's been in the game, but in case you don't, as you can see, once per turn, activate main, you will trash one Revolutionary Army type card from your hand, and up to 3 of your Revolutionary Army type characters or characters with a trigger gain 3,000 power during this turn. That is really good. It is not a board-wide blanket buff on your turn like Red Zoro, or a perpetual blanket buff on Leader or herself, or not herself, but her board like Sabo. But 3 characters getting 3,000 power is extremely, extremely strong, especially in the current meta where everything has to just blitz down Emu, or you need to be fast enough to go toe-to-toe with Ace, because whenever Ace sees his curve and he gets what he wants, you just kind of die. This deck doesn't really have a lot of tools to keep itself alive, which sucks, so speed has to be on your side. But despite that, you don't really want to go first. You kind of want to go second, and although that means that you have to take the first swing, it kind of comes in clutch at times, given the fact that we do have access to yellow. So there are a lot, and I mean a lot of triggers in this deck. And that's kind of what the deck is going to play around. You're going to get punched, you're going to trigger, play a body, do whatever you want, and those triggers are either going to help you draw cards to keep yourself alive, play out bodies to be aggressive on follow-up turns, assuming you even last that long, or do things like, play out even more bodies, like we'll just get there in a second. Super aggressive, super fast, probably the fastest deck in the game. I believe in my Vegapunk video, I probably said the same thing about him, but I had completely forgotten about Belo. And admittedly, I used to be a hater of this deck, but I've kind of come around to her, given the fact that 13 gives her a couple new cards, which we'll talk about later. And actually, despite that, I am not running the new cards at all for Belo. This is just going to be a standard list, but at the end, I have 3 cards set aside, and I'll talk about techs or flexibility. But starting off, we have, oh my god, if I can just grab her, we have the Belo Searcher. It's your typical standard run-of-the-mill searcher. Every deck's got one. Check top 5 for a Revolutionary Army type card. You grab one, put the rest at the bottom of the deck. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Given that we want to go second, you really want to have 2 of these in your opening hand, especially given the fact that since your leader is a plus 3k, these are 5k swings on the following turn. So that'll be, if you have 2 of these on your opening hand, that'll be 3 5ks on turn 2, which is really strong. Typically, people are going to just take the first swing, but if they don't want to just keep going, they're going to have to drop cards. And the more cards they drop for you, the better. A lot of people seem to understand, or not even understand, they seem to believe that you have to just keep walling off the Belo swings. And admittedly, she kind of doesn't really give you an option. You kind of have to, because the alternative to that is just dying, of course. But if you keep dropping all your cards, you can't really hold off against her very long. And, that's kind of what this deck makes you do. Makes you choose between poop or shit. You're going to be choosing between 2 bad decisions every single time. And it is extremely, extremely good for you no matter what your opponent does. Drop cards, profit. take damage, profit. There is never ever anything that could ever happen to you bad by just swinging a 5k at least. And we'll get into it later, but you know, you guys should be familiar with Belo. You understand Karasu, right? When the Karasu hits the board, they're dropping in power, so they have to swing. They have to stop and drop more cards to stop these swings. It is so funny. But assuming you don't have her, you do want to go second, as I mentioned. You do have Bartholomew Kuma. This is another 05 body. This guy has also been in the game for a while. Honestly, all of these cards released either right before Belo Betty or right alongside her or shortly after. There aren't going to be a lot of exceptions to that. So, but whenever he drops, you get to kill an opponent's character with a 2k power or less. The trigger is to just play the card, assuming that you are multicolored. That is also a really good body. That's going to be a 5k swing on turn 2 as well, assuming you don't see the Belo Betty. You'll want to play that out. Or even if you have the Belo Betty and your opponent maybe drops a Searcher, like in the Zora matchup against like a Hiyori or Bonnie, she drops the Bonnie, do any tap Searcher, any cheap body. It's really good in the mirror matchup as well. Also gets rid of chump blockers, small utility pieces, anything like that. Kuma clears them. Next up, this is arguably the best card in the entire deck. This is the 4-cost Emporio Ivankov. He is red, 1k counter. No trigger, unfortunately, but if he has 7,000 or more power, you will play one Revolutionary Army type character with 5k power or less, other than him from your hand. So, doesn't have a trigger, but he wants you to target him with the ability, because whenever you make him that 8k swing, you get to just drop whatever you want from your hand. We'll get into it in a little bit, but I actually think that there is only 3 cards that you can't play off of him in this entire deck. Other than that, it's like nothing's off limits. And on the topic of spammers, we have one more. Well, we have 2 more, but we'll get to the third later. We have Emporio Ivankov, but again, you'll look at the top 3 cards from the top of your deck and play a Revolutionary Army type card with power 5k or less than the rest at the bottom of the deck. Same thing as this Ivankov, but this guy is really good if you go first. He is going to be a 9k body, and he just checks top 3 and plays it out raw. So he's not going to force you to drop cards from hand, which is actually just insane in this deck, not having to drop cards. We'll talk about that later because that is Belo Betty's biggest and most glaring weakness. But this is good going first. You might sometimes find yourself trashing it off of the leader ability just because it's not a counter. You probably shouldn't be doing that too often because the card is that good. But you don't also want to just sit there and hold it in your hand and never actually play it. There are only a few times where you'll want to comfortably play the Ivankov, and that'll be like later on in the game. You don't want to drop this like turn 2 or 3 at all, because I don't want to say it's not going to provide you a lot of value, because you're playing one body and getting another for free, so it's not super bad. But this guy, the 4-cost Ivankov, being a target for your ability and then playing out whatever you choose is much more important than checking top 3 and gambling. But neither of them are bad. I don't really think you can go wrong with either one, but I do have, a bit more bias towards the 4-cost Ivankov. Next up is these 4-cost Lindbergh. Whenever he attacks, if he has 7k power or more, then you will kill an opponent's character with 3k power or less. We don't do a lot of negging in this deck, but we do have one card that will allow us to do that. So you couple that with the Lindbergh, what you can do is I'll go ahead and grab her right now, actually, just to go ahead and show you, and then I'll explain the ideal play. So 2-cost Koala, she is one of our only 2Ks in the deck, and on play, if you are Revolutionary Army type, then you will give an opponent's character minus 3k power this turn. So something you could do to try and clear your opponent's board, This is going to be especially useful in the Zora matchup when you need to get rid of that fucking Cavendish. You'll drop Ivankov. You'll do the Ivankov ability. Ivankov will play out a Koala, and then you can just drop a Lindbergh from hand. Or not a Lindbergh from hand. The Lindbergh already needs to be on field because it's a one attacking. But you do that, and anything that has power 6k or less is just getting absolutely world starred. You are just blowing it up. Where did my other Ivankov go? Oh, there it is. Oh my god, I am actually not all there today. But there she is. She's also a pretty decent turn 1 play, just like the Bartolomeo. Not Bartolomeo, god, dude. I'm, like I said, not there. But the Kuma. Although I would not advise playing that turn 1 unless you absolutely have to, because of the fact that she is a 2k counter and one of your only 2k counters. And on the topic of 2k counters, here's an 09 piece. We have the 4-cost 5k Bartholomew Kuma. This is a vanilla body, but it is a target for leader ability. It does have a trigger, which just plays him raw, and he's a 2k counter. That is really all he's here for, is just those two things. I don't ever really play him out of hand. I just kind of keep him for counter. He's good off of his trigger, you know, that's one of the reasons, well, the only real reason he's here, because this deck does kind of fall over whenever its aggression is met. It kind of just crashes and burns. But on the topic of aggression, let's show off arguably the best card in the entire deck. Now, I know I mentioned that about Ivankov, because Ivankov is a spammer, but you really just cannot play Belo Betty without Karasu. This is a 4-drop 5k, 1k counter. He's Revolutionary Army type, so he's searchable. Obviously, if you know anything about One Piece, you know that Karasu is a commander. I should not have to explain that. I don't know why I did. But you play him, and one of your opponent's leaders or characters that is extremely important. Do keep that in mind. Leader or character will get minus 1,000 power during this turn. Then whenever you attack, if he has 7k power or more, then the exact same ability takes effect. So this Karasu is genuinely the MVP of the entire deck. I have had a lot of fun playing this against Roger, because Roger will go to 7k late game, or early game you'll actually just do this and mean that he has to drop more cards, because he'll go from like that 5k to a 4k, because he doesn't get his 7 until late game. But even if he does, I've played against Rogers, and they'll drop the Whitebeard that will make them like an 8k swing or a 9k on your turn. So having the Karasu to bring them back down to 7, and then you're swinging an 8, so they still have to drop cards, is extremely important. And then in terms of more aggression, we have the 3-cost 4k Inazuma. This is a 1k counter, and then if you have a character other than this character, then he will get Rush. So although this Inazuma will not get Rush if you target him with the ability, or he is 7k, any cards like that, you can, because it does not say Inazuma, right? For example, the 1-drop Belo Betty cannot search the yellow 3-cost Belo Betty, because it says that you cannot grab a character named Belo Betty. And Inazuma does not have that restriction. It just says that it cannot be this character. So you can have 2 of these on field, and they will bounce off of each other and give each other Rush. So do keep that in mind, because that's come up with me a couple times. And then, just to keep the pressure on, we have one of my personal favorite cards in the deck, and one of the best cards that you could possibly play against Emu in this current meta, is the 3-cost Morley. This is not a counter, but, you know, you can't win them all. Whenever he attacks, though, as long as he has 7,000 or more power, then your opponent cannot activate a blocker in response to him. That is incredibly, incredibly busted. It is going... This card alone has secured me so many games, whether it's playing against something like Green Uda, who's got all her blockers, or an Emu as well, who's just going to wall off whenever you get late game. It is just a really, really good and cheese card, because he just tells you that you have to take it, or you cannot, block, period. It's kind of in the same vein as the 10 cost Rush Luffy or the 10 cost Roger, who will give you some sort of boon if your opponent blocks them. The 10 cost Rush Luffy killing an 8k or less, and the 10 cost Roger actually just winning you the game outright, assuming that you and your opponent, one of you guys, have 0 life. So having things that just deny blockers is really good, because every deck has at least 10 of them, especially if you're playing against Saba, which you're probably going to see a lot of. Next up, speaking of blockers, we have the 3 cost Karasu. This is, searchable as well. The 1k blocker trigger is just if your leader is Revolutionary Army type, then you or your opponent have 5 or less life, you will play him. That's really it. He's a very straightforward card. He's a playable blocker off of both Ivankovs whenever you need him to be. He's also playable off of the 6 cost Koala, which I'll talk about in a sec. But other than that, just getting punched and seeing him in life is really good, because that means that they just have to hit you again if they're trying to secure a game. And if you're doing a really good job at keeping their board state in check, then that's going to be quite a lot to ask against other aggro decks. Or maybe not aggro decks, but some of the decks that swing taller, like Jewelry Bonnie. And here is the Koala that I just mentioned, the 6 cost 6k. This is a brick, and I do find myself trashing it off of the leader ability to get the effect. But on play, you will put a card from the top or bottom of your life cards into your hand, then play Revolutionary Army type card from your hand that has a cost of 4 or less, and if you do so, you will draw 1. You don't have to do the ability. It is still just a 6k blocker, but I do believe that it being able to play out something like the Karasu is extremely important. You get to take a life, draw a card, so they do kind of like balance each other out. By giving you more blockers, which is important. But I think the biggest downside is just having you take the life, which against a squishy deck like Belo Betty, that is a huge, and I mean huge ask. Next up, we have 7 cost Sabo. Don't ever play this card. Don't ever play this card. I was thinking of running this as a full 4, but you either want to use this for leader ability, you either want to trash the card off of like a counter, or you really just want the fact that he's a trigger, being able to draw 2. Just the flat out draw 2 is extremely important, because I know a lot of abilities are just like draw 1 or draw 2 trash 1 or draw whatever, right? But this guy saying that you can draw 2 with no, consequence is very, very important. And that is the entire reason he is in this deck. Don't ever play him. You're not going to have a lot of Dawn to do a lot afterwards. Like, don't get me wrong, you've got a bunch of 3 costs, 2 costs, but you just definitely shouldn't. His ability itself, whenever you play him, isn't that great. I didn't even bother reading it because it didn't occur to me that there would be people who probably play the card, but just in case you want to, you will add 1 Revolutionary Army type character from your hand to the top of your life face up. Then if you have 2 or more life cards, add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand. So he does help you heal. However, if you are late game, which is the only time you're really going to be being able to play the Sabo, then you immediately have to just take that life again. Which I am not a big fan of, honestly. I really don't like the card. You probably shouldn't ever play the card. But it's whatever. I really don't know why I'm lingering on the Saba for so long. Just, you probably should not ever play him. Just take my word for it. We have the 3 cost, for our final card at least, 3 cost event. This is the Emporio Energy Hormone. You will 3k counter, then play a Revolutionary Army type character with a power of 5k or less from your hand, and the trigger is busted. You just get to do that anyway, without the counter. I love that card. You actually need this card. I don't believe it should be a full 4, but having anything less than 3 is absurd. This is absolutely a ridiculous card, and it gives us more counter in an already squishy deck. So being able to just have that and maybe play out a blocker or play out a guy that plays out another guy is just extremely important. Don't know why I pointed to the Ivankov, the 5 cost, because that is not a legal play off of the energy hormone. You have to do the 4 cost, and then that's a main event, so you can't, or not a main event, but a main ability, so you can't even do that on a counter. But there's still a lot of other on plays that you can do, like the Karasu or the Kumas, the Bettys. If you grab that, maybe just get a rush body on field, a Morley, whatever. Like, just, there's so much you can do with it. Not having it is cutting yourself short. As for these other cards, I've got a few of them here. I've got 3, actually. So, first up, if you're familiar with this deck or Revolutionary Army type stuff in general, you're probably wondering why I'm not running Revolutionary Army HQ. And that is quite literally because I do not like it in this deck at all. For those of you, all 2 of you that are unfamiliar, trash 1 card from your hand and look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Grab a Revolutionary Army type character and add it to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. I think that is a phenomenal card. Although I just said that I didn't like it, that is a busted card. I run it in Sabo. I ran it in the other Sabo. I was thinking about running it in the other Sabo. You really can only run it in Sabo or Dragon, all 3 people who run Dragon. But here, you're trashing so many cards off of leader ability. You're trashing cards off of certain triggers that require it of you. Just having something that makes you trash even more cards, I don't really like. I know some people run it as a 2 of. I think that's completely fine. If you want to run it, that is okay. I'm not sure what you would cut. Deck space in this list is so tight. There's so many cards that you need, and you need as many copies of these cards as possible. You cannot really just throw in a tech option and call it good. This is not a deck that really allows that, right? Cohesion or lack thereof will absolutely be your downfall. So having a card that makes you drop more pieces isn't good in my opinion. Like you could drop counter, you could drop the Koala, the Morley, the other Ivankov, because they're all bricks, and potentially search out a 1 cost, or not a 1 cost, a 1k or one of your few 2ks. But for me, it's just, think about it. You're going to drop this card, that's a card from hand, right? And although that wasn't even a counter, so it shouldn't matter, it's your opponent now sees that you have less cards, so they're going to play more brazenly. And this deck is squishy, so you can't exactly stop whatever they do. You're going to trash a card off of this and trash a card off of that. You are drawing 1 card every turn and trashing 2 every turn if you decide to do both of these in a single turn. You absolutely shouldn't if you run the Army HQ stage, but it's just, you're getting negative value. There is no value really in running this in the deck, or at least this specific list. If you cook up something on your own and you decide that you need this stage, some people believe you do. I'm not a big fan of it. If I had this in my deck, the only service it would provide me is that it is a card to trash off of leader ability that doesn't provide me any value because it doesn't have a busted ability like Ivankov. It's not a blocker like Koala. It doesn't negate a blocker like Morley, and it's not a counter from hand. So it's no sweat off my back and not running the Rev stage. The next card would be Usopp. This is just a 1 cost 2k counter. The trigger doesn't do anything for you because it is locked to the Egghead type. However, it does give you another turn 1 play, assuming you don't see the Belo Betty. I actually really like this card. It is a trigger, so that does mean that you can target off the Belo Betty ability, despite it not being Revolutionary Army HQ. Revolutionary Army type. So you can't search it out with anything in the deck, which is why we bring our own searcher for it. We have the new OP13 Lilith. This card is absolutely insane. It is a 1-drop 2k, so just like this guy and just like Belo Betty, it is a turn 1 play. And on play, you will look at the top 4 cards of your deck, grab any card that has a trigger on them other than Lilith, and add them to your hand. The rest go to the bottom. the trigger on the card is to just activate the effect anyway. Both of these cards are really good. If you want to run them, that is fine. I choose not to. I actually tested them for a while. I chose not to just because I wanted to run a more cohesive and standardized build. Or at least having two cards that are not searchable did not feel good to me, especially whenever this card here is a searcher itself. This searcher searches for everything else in the deck, including this Usopp, but the Belo Betty cannot grab either of these cards, and that's why I didn't want to run it. Also, for the leader ability, you have to trash a Revolutionary Army type card, so having cards in hand that are not Revolutionary Army type didn't feel good. Although they are still counter, so they stop swings, it's just you're trashing cards every turn. So having something that you can't trash off of the ability is also really bad, because you're going to be giving them all these counters. You're going to be trying to stave off their aggression or their swings or their attacks at their board, or your board at least. Having cards that can't be used to buff them up and only really serve to stave off those attacks don't really seem too great to me, because they aren't as multi-purposed as the rest of the deck. I could just be talking out of my ass there. I did test it. I didn't really like it. I think a standard Betty list is just much better running the Revolutionary Army type stuff. Although, if you did want to run more aggressive, or I wouldn't even say aggressive, but you want to run a more trigger-focused build, I have seen people run this Usopp. I have seen people run the Lilith. I have seen people run the Boa Hancock from PRB2, which I think is a phenomenal card. So there's plenty of stuff that you can do. But I feel like at this point, if you're running these, you just want to play Vegapunk, which you absolutely should. Vegapunk is also really good right now, given how aggressive he is. And the 13 set coming out meant that all the yellow Bonnie pieces actually get to be used in Vegapunk. So he's got top end now that are aggressive and burn life. He's got I could just keep talking about how much I love the current state of Vegapunk. I might make an updated list, because I know my previous video that I did on Vegapunk was in the EBO2 meta, and quite a few metas have passed since that video, so I might do an updated list if anyone would be interested in seeing that. But there is a Treasure Cup coming up later this month in my area. I will be attending that, and this is the exact list that I will be bringing. If anything changes, or maybe I come to a certain realization, then I'll just leave a community post, or I'll pin a comment, explaining what I cut and why, or an updated list. But I think that this list here is just very strong. There's so much you can do. There's so much aggression, so much searching, so much board spamming, so much everything. I genuinely love this list. Belo Betty as a leader is not it's not a great list, or not even a great list. It's not a great leader. Her leader ability is really good, but her biggest downside is how many cards you're actually dropping from hand. Because anytime they swing at your face, you have to drop counters to, hold them off, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, you want to take a lot of hits because you have triggers, but that is also just as bad. Just getting punched and needing to get punched just doesn't feel too hot at all. And then you have all these cards that you need to trash from hand. You have triggers that say trash card from hand. Your leader ability is trash card from hand, and you have no way of getting them back. It just doesn't feel too good in certain scenarios. So the best piece of advice I can offer you is just practice the list and don't get in that situation, which, is really bad advice. It's like getting into a fist fight and saying just don't get hit. But really, that's kind of what you have to do, is just not drop cards if you can avoid it. Plus, having more cards in hand does kind of force your opponent to play more cautiously, because they know that they can't be as aggressive, because they need to pull cards from hand before they can get through to your life. So you can just keep cards in hand to bluff, or you can just be as bold and brazen as possible and just keep trashing every turn and doing certain things. I could not possibly teach you how to play Belo Betty. I explained some of the potential lines, but I cannot get in here and just explain everything. There is so much going on with this deck, and a lot of people are going to look at Betty and just see a leader that spams cheap bodies, and just unga bungas at your forehead. But in reality, she is a lot tougher to play than that, because you're trashing your only defensive resource. One of your blockers actually force you to rip a life, and the other makes you not able to play him off of his trigger unless you're already dying. And then in general, being a 4-life leader just isn't the greatest, because, well, you're already not as tanky as the other decks. Like Zoro, assuming that he doesn't punch you at all, or he doesn't counter out of your punches at all, you have to punch him 6 times, whereas he punches you 5, right? So even if you go first, right, he is still going to outpace you. And that's just the sad part about playing Belo Betty, is the lack of defensive tools. She's a deck that you're just going to have to build yourself, see what ratios work, unless you want to just copy my list 1-to-1. I'll leave that pinned as well, or probably in the description. And then you can test that on the sim, go up or down on certain cards as you want. You can tech in different options that I decided I didn't want to run, just assuming that they provide you more value. My list is not the list to end all lists. I do not have the definitive say over what gets ran in any deck. So just figure things out yourself. You're going to have to do a lot of studying, because there are so many different things that she can do. There's so many different things that she can't do as well. And then there are different landmine matchups. And speaking of matchups, you absolutely blitz the shit out of Roger, you blitz the shit out of Ace. Emu falls over. I wouldn't even say that you blitz the shit out of Ace, because Ace is also an aggro deck, so you kind of have to play cautiously there. But if you see what you need to see when you need to see it, Ace does not stand any chance. You absolutely just fuck the top 3 decks. Sabo's going to be a little bit trickier, because he's got so many blockers. Jewelry Bonnie is a pain in the ass, because if she drops Kid, you kind of struggle to get to that 8k without using leader ability. So you kind of have to use ability just to swing into that Kid, and even then she only has to give you a 1. Although I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. If you have Karasu, you can lower the power of that Kid and get rid of it. But if Bonnie doesn't see Kid, then you just win against her as well. Even though she taps down your swingers, you'll have 6 attacks, assuming you have a full board, and all she does is stop 1 at the least. So just make sure you open up with a Karasu to reduce, and then do whatever you want from there. Let's see what else. Yeah, Emu just dies. Emu literally cannot do anything against this deck. If you want to just kill Emu, and Emu specifically, play Belo Betty, he genuinely cannot play the game against this deck. You are way too fast. And it's not even like it's a bad matchup if you go first too, and he goes second, because both of you want to go second. Even if you take first, we have going first options here, right? We have the 5-cost Ivankov, things like that. There's plenty of things that you can do without losing your tempo, despite not getting the curve or the turn order that you wanted. It's just that it doesn't matter if you go first or second against Emu. He immediately falls over to you, because he cannot, and I mean absolutely cannot, hope to ever keep up with the aggression that Belo Betty demands of him, because he isn't an aggro deck. He isn't even a stall deck. I have no idea what the fuck he is. Actually, no, he's definitely stall. I almost called him tempo or mid-range, but both of those are fucking lies. But let's see. Anything else? GP Luffy can be a little bit rough. UP Luffy genuinely gets raped. You absolutely just blitz the hell out of any top deck. The only deck you're gonna... Oh! Zoro. Oh my god, I completely forgot. You hard lose to Zoro. I mean, you don't hard lose to Zoro. It is possible. I've been learning the matchup myself. Rayleigh, you do not beat Rayleigh. You do not beat GP, I believe. GP's rough. GP's rough for sure. If anyone wants to run BP Luffy, you also don't beat BP Luffy. Gum Gum Giant just shuts this deck off, and anything that sets the leader's power to 7k also is super rough. Even though Roger is 7k base when he gets to that high dawn, he still is 5k for a majority of the turn. or a majority of the game. Then you have leaders that are 6K, so you can like reasonably deal with them. But holy hell, BP Luffy just being able to play Beer Luffy, go to 7K, and then swing with his other 7K, and just do that every turn is genuinely obnoxious. Thank God BP Luffy is not in the meta, because if he was, this deck would not have any hope at accomplishing anything. I think that's going to be about all, though. I don't think I've missed anything. Yeah. Yeah, I actually think that's it. I'm really looking forward to seeing how she shapes up in the future, if at all. I know here currently, she isn't too hot, because you know, like I said, Zoro and Rayleigh are kind of your landmine matchups. You get seeded against them, or like maybe in a Blackbeard, right? You're going to struggle a little bit because Blackbeard's going to shut off your leader ability. Blackbeard's going to shut off your on plays. Granted, most of your things, or your most important things, are when attackings and activate mains. It's just annoying enough to actually be relevant. Although I suppose not. Blackbeard does kind of fall over to aggro, but, you know, it's not like he's in the meta either. Let's see. Lim is also really rough. Lim is really rough. Holy fuck, dude. Lim is rough because she matches your aggression. She's a matchup that I'm trying to work the kinks out on, but oh my god, that Mihawk is a problem. I genuinely hate fighting Mihawk so much in Lim. Because, oh my god, and then the 9-cost Zoro. Yeah, it's not sweet out here if you go against anything that's green. If it is green or it's red, you're gonna struggle. Although that's, you know, not to say that every red deck you struggle against, but every green deck you absolutely will struggle against. That's just how green is. But that's really about it. Just showing off the Sabo sleeves for a moment. That's really about it. I do not believe there's anything else I need to cover. I guess I just hope that you guys enjoyed the deck list. This entire list here, I need to double check my limitless, but I do believe this entire deck is like $19.30. It's like a $20 deck. So if you're looking for a cheap option, I know Shirahoshi was like $5 to build that whole thing, right? This, you know, about 15 extra bucks as compared to the Shirahoshi. It's still super cheap deck, super meta relevant. I genuinely believe that in this deck, the most expensive card is this Koala, and it's $1.19. So, you know, you are absolutely good. If you just want to play something fast and aggressive, but then, you know, not worry about breaking the bank like you have to with Sabo, then, you know, Belo Betty's the deck for you. Other than that, I guess I'll just get around to that kid video eventually, or maybe I'll prioritize the Vegapunk updates, or, you know, I'll just do what I usually do and not post for like a month and a half, and then make a random video that I said that I was not going to make. Like, who knows, I might do a Sugar video next, because I built her for fun, but I guess just look forward to that. Or down, I'm not your dad. Other than that, let's see, did I miss anything? No, that's everything. Alright, bye-bye.